everyone, I thought I'd sit down and do a bit of a chatty video today because I realised it's been a year pretty much to the day since I made the video where I basically said I was dropping out of uni, was going to change course, and you know, it was like a big time. So I thought it would be interesting to come back a year later and just talk about how things have changed and whether like I regret anything that I did and stuff like that. So for anyone who's new, this time last year I was studying architecture and basically I absolutely hated the course and it really affected my mental health as well. So around January, about this time I think, to be honest, it was after the Christmas holidays, I decided, you know what, I'm done, like I cannot get through another year of this. So I decided to withdraw from study and then come back in September and do a different course. I've not actually watched that video back recently just because even though I seem totally fine when I'm filming, I know like how rubbish I felt inside and I didn't really want to watch it back and kind of relive it, if that makes sense. But I do sort of remember the things I was saying, so I'm just kind of going to go over those and basically say how things have changed now, if that makes sense. I don't really know what I'm doing, I've not planned this video, but I thought, yeah, it might just be interesting as a little update to see how I've changed over a year. So in the space of a year, a lot has happened. So this time last year, I was still living in my student accommodation, but was going through the process of trying to move out. That ended up being an absolute nightmare because obviously I'd signed a contract that was, I think, till June or July. And even though I'd withdrew from uni, had like a letter from my doctor to say why, they wouldn't obviously like refund me or let me leave my contract unless I could find someone to fill the room. And obviously it was January, uni started in September, so pretty much everyone already has a room, and the place I was living still had spare rooms that they were selling, so it was pretty much impossible for me to sell this room. So I just had to pay the rent even though I wasn't living there, which was a little bit stressful, as I'm sure you can imagine, because it ended up being about £2,000 that I had to pay because obviously my student finance, I was paid it in the January, but because I then withdrew, I wasn't technically entitled to the money, so I then obviously had to like pay it back and had to pay the rest of the rent with my own money, which I didn't have. So yeah, it was a very like stressful time. However, in I think it was the February, I then moved into this house that we're living in now. And I just lived here while we did all the work trying to like renovate it because it was quite dated at the time. But yeah, I just lived here by myself for a bit. I'm not going to lie, living by myself wasn't great because I didn't really see many people because obviously I wasn't at uni, and at this point I didn't have a job either because the job I did have was a like Christmas temp job, so that ended in January as well. So I literally had like nothing to do and it was just a very kind of weird little time for me. I wouldn't want to do it again, I'm not gonna lie, but I got through it and it's fine. And then by April I did find myself a new job, and it was in the sort of care sector. It was never something I'd done before. However, I'm not gonna lie, I was really just desperate for work. I couldn't find any retail jobs and I was just gonna take anything I could get, so that is what I went for, and I ended up working there for about 6 months. I think it was like October, November last year now that I decided to leave. It was a good job, like, well, I say it was a good job. I really liked the people I worked with and a lot of the time it was good. However, it was very physically challenging and mentally challenging, the sort of things you had to do every day. And I think at the time I didn't really realise, but a lot of the anxiety I had over those months was sort of related to work, even if I didn't sort of put those two things together at the time, if that makes sense. Because since I decided to leave in, I think it was November, yeah, since I decided to leave in November, obviously I'm not like perfect or whatever, but I am better than I was. And yeah, I think a lot of my stress was coming from work, and then obviously I had to go back to uni, so it was a very like turbulent time, I guess you could say. I also managed to get myself a new job. I think again it was around November, like there wasn't a big gap between my my work, which was quite nice because obviously in January I had to wait like 3 months to find a new job. But my new job, I basically work as an editor at the uni for their like social media, blog, YouTube, that sort of thing. So literally the sort of perfect job for me because obviously I've been doing this since I was 13 and I must like it a fair bit to still be doing it like 7 years later. So yeah, I actually really enjoy my job, which is a nice change. So yeah, overall things are going pretty good, and yeah, I wouldn't really say I have any regrets over what happened because obviously every single decision that I've made has led me to where I am now, and now I'm in a lot better place. That was not a good English sentence, but it's fine. I'm in a better place now than I was then. I think the one, if we're going to call it a regret, is even though I know how much I was really struggling at uni and like couldn't see myself finishing the year, in a way I kind of regret just not literally putting in the bare minimum effort and just getting to the end of the year, because obviously, as I say, because I left partway through a year, it had a lot of financial impacts to that, because obviously I didn't get any more loan but still had to pay rent on somewhere that I wasn't living, because it was student accommodation and I wasn't a student, but they wouldn't let me leave, but technically I couldn't live there. Does that make sense? Like, it was very weird. But yeah, obviously I ended up being in like £2,000 of debt. Luckily I had a fairly big overdraft on my student account and I just used that. So the whole time I was working from like April till September, I was just trying to get out of my overdraft. And even though I was working pretty much full time, doing a lot of 14-hour double shifts, it wasn't until August I actually managed to be like safely out of my overdraft, because obviously at the time I still had other expenses like bills. So yeah, I mean, I think it made me grow up a lot. I think for my age I'm quite mature anyway. Is that a bit weird to say about yourself? Like, I think I'm a bit of an old soul anyway, but yeah, it definitely did make me sort of grow up a lot in those months, because even though obviously I still had friends and family, a lot of the time I was just by myself. I was literally going to work, coming home, sleeping and going to work again, and if I had a day off, a lot of the time, yeah, I didn't really see anyone. So it was, yeah, a strange period of my life. But as I say, I wouldn't say I regret it, because it's just made me a stronger person, even though that's really cringy. In terms of the changing course aspect of it, I do not regret my decision at all. I'm actually quite impressed with myself that I managed to pick a course I like, because if you don't know, when you do undergraduate study in the UK, you get a maximum of 4 years funding. So obviously I used basically half of it doing architecture. So if I didn't like the course that I then picked, I would have had to stick it out anyway, because I wouldn't get the like 3rd year funding, because I've used it all, if that makes sense. So there was a lot of pressure on that to make sure I picked something I liked, and it's kind of bad, but I had it in my head. I was like, even if I don't really like it, I'm just going to stick it out, because otherwise I've got myself into like all this debt and I have nothing to show for it. Luckily I do like my course. I don't think I mentioned, but the course I do now is creative advertising, still at Lincoln. Like, I'm still at the same uni, the only thing I did was change course. Obviously it is completely different from architecture, and I'm not sure if I ever touched on it. Obviously I'm talking a few years back, before I like decided what I wanted to do at uni. Architecture was a very like last minute decision. I was sort of having a bit of a crisis where I didn't know what to do, and in my head architecture was a good choice because, you know, there was good money, it was like a solid career, but I didn't actually think about all the maths and science involved because I was stupid, and obviously then I hated it. So yeah, I would say if you're like in that boat where you're undecided about what you want to do, either take a gap year, because you can work and earn up some money for when you do go to uni and you're not going to do what I did and just cause yourself a load of stress, or go with your gut. I know that's really like cliche, but my gut was always to do something creative, and I sort of doubted myself, and yeah, if I'd have just stuck with my guns I would have got to this point a lot sooner. But yeah, if you take anything from this video, it's just go with something you actually enjoy, because I literally picked architecture because I was like, oh, I like watching grand designs, but watching a TV show and actually doing the job is very different, in case you guys don't know. So don't do what I did. And yeah, pick something you genuinely enjoy or that you're good at and you should be fine. But yeah, in terms of the course, I really enjoy it. It's very random at times, like it's not always like straight up advertising, if that makes sense. We do a lot of kind of strange briefs that help us expand our minds and things like that, but I really enjoy it. And in terms of like grades, obviously I know it's not really about grades, but just for comparison, the only mark I got when I was in architecture, because obviously I left, was quite low. I think I was at like a mid 40, which is like a 2-2 level, which is like basically just a pass. So I was just passing on the work that I had submitted, whereas now on my most recent work that I submitted I got 70%, which is a first. Fair enough, it's just borderline a first, but I'm still taking it, because compared to last year, like I didn't even think, it sounds really bad, but I didn't even think I could really get a first. So it shows that like actually doing something you enjoy pays off, basically. And it is only first year, and this grade won't actually count towards my degree in the end, but it's a good place to start, because if I can get in the mindset now of doing all the work to help myself, then hopefully I'll find it easier in 2nd and 3rd year to do that. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not fully sure if I actually want to go into a career in advertising, which obviously I've not told my lecturer because I think she might cry if I tell her that. Yeah, just because I'm doing that degree doesn't mean I necessarily want to just do advertising. There are a lot of different ways you can go with that degree, so yeah, I'm not entirely set on what I want to do after uni, but I'm not really stressing about it because I think, yeah, the last year has just taught me like things just kind of fall into place in their own time. Even if at certain points you're really like, what the hell am I doing, it will sort of just work itself out, or at least that's what I think anyway. So that's my little word of wisdom that's not very wise. And yeah, so yeah, that's my little life update and about changing course. Hopefully you guys found it probably not useful, interesting maybe. I didn't plan what I was going to say, so for all I know, when I watch this back I've just rambled for 10 minutes, but either way, yeah, I hope it gave you a little bit of insight into what has been going on in the last year if you've not really been keeping up, which is fair enough because I rarely upload. But yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you would like to subscribe, that would be great, and I will see you guys very soon with another video.